to
This
call,
conference will now be recorded.
then I'll have you be allowed to.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I'd like to call a meeting to order. In attendance, Randy, why don't you say?
A second.
No, you in attendance?
I'm in attendance.
Teresa,
Present.
Don Gregor,
Glenn Sikorsky.
Joe Schofield. And Phil Mazie is attending virtually.
And so is
Doug
Doug.
Doug Zanner is too.
I'm sorry, Doug. So we have a full quorum here, everybody.
Everybody's here and we have a
Phil,
quorum
hang
present.
on a second. I'd like to take a vote to allow both Doug and Phil to vote remotely.
I approve.
I second.
It's me and Joe, me and Doug. Huh?
There's two of you, you and Doug.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Was the motion and seconded? Take a vote.
Aye.
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 Say
Aye.
You have been approved to attend the meeting and vote, both Doug Zanner and Phil Mazie. All right, Phil, you can now run the meeting if you wish.
All right. Okay, thank you, John, for putting me on the straight track. Let's work on the December 9th meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those?
Yes, yes.
I had a couple of minor comments, but there was nothing there of significance. Any comments? Can I'd have a motion to approve the December 9th meeting minutes?
I, Glenn, support.
Second that, John Gregor.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Carries unanimously. We're on to the next one. Financial report. Glenn, you're on.
Yes, good afternoon. I sent you the November financial for both PD and below Gateway Services financial for November. I consolidated as requested in the previous meeting to be on one page. I have both the actual budget variance, actual year to date. There's nothing in there on the 1.4 on our CDD that I see is of anything that's outstanding that stands out. Reserves are at $4.4 million as broken down between capital, emergency, ponds, and unassigned. Are there any questions on the financial report?
Glenn, I noticed that, we are significantly under in most categories on the CDD part of it. Is that because there's a lag in getting the billing in?
Yeah, it's a accrual accounting from accounts payable when you receive the invoice to when you pay it. So we're only 2 months in to our current budget. So therefore, you're going to have these lags. Yes.
Okay. Any questions of Glenn about the financial report? If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item. And I'm going to call on Dean Groves, who is the chairperson of the Safety and Security Work Group, to introduce this and actually make the presentation. So Dean, go ahead. By the way, we made this a separate item and not part of the Safety and Security Work Group report, which will come later in the meeting, because we thought that we were going to have somebody from Florida Engineers here, and we didn't want to hold them up, having them listen to the whole meeting. So Dean, go ahead. And you need to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Phil. This is Dean Groves. I am the chairman of the Safety and Security Work Group. I have been involved with the group for a few years now. Hello, Randy. Good to see you in person. I am here on behalf of Florida Transportation Engineering Incorporated. Florida Transportation Engineering is a firm, consulting engineering firm, professional traffic engineering firm that I, as the Safety and Security Work Group Chair, would like to recommend be considered as a design consultant for the district to support initiatives by the Safety and Security Work Group. We've been dealing for several years with the district's consultant, and frankly have had some challenges in getting work products completed timely, getting responses from them timely, and it's been frustrating. So I have suggested that Florida Transportation Engineers be a possible alternate to the current district engineers for roadway and safety improvements. FTE, as they go by initials, is a 30-plus-year-old minority-owned business enterprise based in Port Charlotte, but also has offices, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, but also has offices in Fort Myers, in Jacksonville, and a few other cities in Florida. They do a lot of transportation engineering work with the Florida Department of Transportation. They also work with HOAs. They also work with cities and towns. They're working with Lee County. They're working with City of Fort Myers. And, you know, they have a very solid professional engineering reputation that I think we would be well served if they were able to provide services to us. They serve clients in following disciplines: highway design, traffic signalization, decorative lighting, signing and pavement markings, traffic engineering studies, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, highway and traffic data collection, and landscape architecture. They perform speed studies and recommendations for speed changes. For example, the aisles at Weston HOA, sign inventories to comply with the manual on uniform traffic control devices, mid-block pedestrian crossings, and design roundabout feasibility studies. These are all of the types of matters that we are considering in Pelican Preserve to address ongoing safety and security concerns. And unfortunately, Oliver Rodriguez, who was the senior vice president and design manager for FTE, was unable to be here today. I got a message from him last evening that a family member was tested positive for COVID, and under the circumstances, they've elected to kind of stay quarantined. So he provided me with some information that I just presented to you. I have additional information if I could circulate it, resumes and things like that, if that's desired. But I would like consideration to engage FTE with the district to support our needs at Pelican Preserve. Thank you.
I would open the meeting to comments. I'm not sure that we actually have to have a motion to do this. We would be engaging FTE in individual projects, and those would have to be approved. Or some of those would have to be approved, but I don't know that we need to approve them specifically as a service provider. I'd open the floor to comments.
Well, my question is, what do they charge? How do they bill for a project? Is it hourly or per project, et cetera?
Well, typically in the business that they provide, which is the same business that I've been involved in for many years, is on an hourly rate for a particular project. So depending on the scope of the services, it may be a short, small study that takes a few hours to investigate, prepare a report, and you're in and out with a small number of hours and fees. Larger design efforts, some of the roundabout designs that have gone on here in Gateway, those are significant. And I don't think we'd be looking at anything like that. But because they are professional consulting firm that is working for the city of Fort Myers and for Florida Department of Transportation and for Lee County, they all have rates that are competitive with other firms that do similar services. So it really comes down to how efficient, how quickly can they get something performed rather than what do they charge for hourly rates.
Dean, do you have a list of the projects that you're interested in that you maybe could come up with an estimated total expense for a year? You know, like 5 projects or 8 projects, and come up with some sort of estimated cost that we would be looking at? Because I don't know where we get funding for this.
Well, the funding, there is the $75,000 budgeted for the safety and security work group.
Okay,
And that's where the funding would come from.
And Mrs. Schofield, yes, we have some ideas of projects. I haven't attempted to put any numbers in terms of level of effort to those yet, but we do have some ideas of projects that we'd like to undertake this year that I can speak to later on in the agenda.
okay.
Now, what would you think would be your top of the list project?
Well, we've got some ongoing issues with rumble strips for traffic calming. I'm sure you've heard and read some correspondence on them. I have as well. And that is a project that was started by Tetra Tech. Hasn't quite been completed. The installation is completed, but the process hasn't been completed. And we want to, on a priority basis, add rumble strips on the opposite side of the street within the same area. That's one. We've got some speed limit signs we'd like to post on Prado Boulevard, where there's no speed limits there now. Posted, like that. Consideration for some crosswalks on Cypress Grove by the Casella Rotary. So there's a few ideas, but first and foremost, we want to get the rumble strips process completed.
All right, I have a question regarding, you can take that 75,000 and spend it towards new engineering firm. If Tetra Tech did it, would it be within a contract of Tetra Tech? So this is extra money we're spending for engineering that Tetra Tech would have done within their own budget?
Well, I understand your question. I don't know what Tetra Tech's contract says. Now, I think that Tetra Tech is retained to provide services as requested. So this would be an additional service to expand the rumble strip issue. So my sense is that there would be additional hours to prepare a permit application, to prepare the design drawings, et cetera. So I'm thinking that it could be a similar level of effort, but I don't really know what Tetra Tech's contract calls for.
Dean, if I may interrupt, if I may interrupt for a moment, Tetra Tech fees are charged to our budget, just not the O&M budget. It falls within the CDD portion of our budget. So if there is work done by Tetra Tech, we are billed for it. And it would appear on the financials below the O&M agreement.
So John, from what Scott said, I was about to say about the same thing. It is a separate charge, so these are replacing charges that we would have gotten from Tetra Tech.
So it's essentially,
This is not in addition to.
You know, I have a question. Well, just based on our experience with the Prado road transfer, they've hired, not Prado, the what the heck?
Palazzo.
Palazzo, thank you. they've hired independent folks to do work for them, but we've always had to have Tetra Tech's approval. So if we hire this company and they do a really bang up job for us, will the CDD still require us to have Tetra Tech approve everything? So we'll still be paying them for something?
No,
We don't need to go to Tetra Tech for
No.
CDD approval.
no.
No.
Okay, that's Mr. Geppert speaking, by the way.
No, we do not.
Bob Geppert, very quickly, if it's in your budget, and it is, you got a $75,000 budget, spend your money the way that the committee wants to spend it, subject to the approval of the board. You don't need to get into the nitty gritty of the details. We've hired a lot of different contractors in our POGS work group and in other work groups. And yes, we have the Tetra Tech budget, but what I heard first and foremost was they weren't happy with what they're doing. So by all means, go someplace else. We'll get with Laura and we'll just disengage Tetra Tech and cut it off at that point.
Okay.
They're a service to help you.
The CDD will not require us to get Tetra Tech approval.
Correct.
No.
Okay, good.
Hey, Phil, this is Doug, or the group. Over the last years, the Ponds Group has engaged Tetra Tech on special unique projects, the Pelican Preserve, and we were always charged. It wasn't in our overhead number. We were charged directly, and I had to, within our budget, we had to cover that. So those questions, just like you said, Phil, I was just going to say I have practical experience, and that's the way it is.
Mhm. The other thing I should mention as an aside, that the full 75,000 may not necessarily be on road type projects. Also coming out of that is the money we spend on getting extra traffic control in here from hiring the city of Fort Myers to do that for us. So that would come out of this budget as well.
This is Laura. Your non-administrative engineering budget for fiscal 22 is only $12,000. I actually have an item that I need to address when we're done with this one regarding your engineering.
Mhm.
Dean, could you speak to the response from Tetra Tech and maybe compare what your expectations are when it comes to small projects? Because a number of what I've heard so far, they're not, I don't know, they seem like small projects and smaller dollar figure things.
They're very small projects. And I think that may be a factor, a consideration with a larger firm like Tetra Tech. It's hard to get, sometimes it's hard to get the attention of the consultant to your project, and the ones that are smaller, even though they may add up over time, the ones that are smaller have a tendency to fall off the burner, the front burner. So I've communicated with the engineers at Tetra Tech. I've been communicating with them since probably June or July of this past year, and by email. I don't think I've picked the phone up to call because people just don't. But it'll be 2 or 3 weeks before I'll get a response to a pretty simple question from Tetra Tech. And again, I'm in the same business as they are, and I know that dealing with clients, and I would consider that we at Pelican Preserve are a client of Tetra Tech's, that to stay engaged, you need to respond. It's a service business that we're in.
And what kind of position are we in with the city now regarding completion of this rumble strip thing? I'm not really well versed in it, but it seems to me like it's getting an awful lot of controversy.
There's a local resident who has a propensity to stir things up that don't require being stirred up, has a tendency not to pay attention to facts and details, and it causes a little bit of anxiety. The city traffic engineer and I communicate regularly, and whenever a message comes in from this individual to the city engineer calls me, what's going on, let's talk it over. we're in good shape with the city, but it is a bit of a problem to continue to have opposition like this. So if we can resolve these matters and get them taken care of, and part of it is getting the initial project final inspection performed by the city to accept what's been done so far. And it's just a matter of agreeing to pick up the permit and sign it and then request the inspection, and we'll be done.
Is that the inspection for the ones that are installed?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
it is.
surprising. Wow.
Yeah,
What
and there were
about-
other things also.
Yeah, what about what's the disposition of the ones you've proposed on the other side of the street? That seems to be highly unusual in any traffic control pattern I've ever seen. Is that legal? And is there a chance that that can be accepted, or what's your perspective on that?
Well, I've spoken with the city engineer about that as well. And he asked me just yesterday, do we still continue to pursue that as a separate permit application? I said, yes. And the intention is to stop motorists from illegally crossing the double yellow center line into opposing traffic to avoid crossing the rumble strips.
Yeah.
So this is like crossing over pavement markings.
I have a couple of questions. Laura, you mentioned regarding the engineering budget,
Yes,
it's only 12,000, it's not 75.
correct.
All right, you just be aware of that.
And you've already spent,
75.
Yeah.
No.
The 75
There's
is the
two
safety and
budgets.
security budget.
yes.
Yes,
There's
that's
a
the
line
total
just-
budget,
Separate budget.
Okay,
75 is the total budget.
that would not be an issue if we hired somebody else.
No.
Okay. One of the concerns, another question regarding the rumble strips, I'm all in favor of them. I have no issue other than the fact that people are now driving on the grass and we're having, the landscaping, who's paying for that?
We are.
I mean, how are you handling that?
This is the first I've heard that people are driving on the grass.
Have you been up there?
I just got back in town, so I haven't seen that, but it's the first time I've heard that people are driving on the grass. You know, people have a tendency to
Avoid
drive
those.
on sidewalks and, it's hard to enforce rules with some motorists.
If that's the case, I mean, somebody eventually is going to be concerned about the landscaping that's going to be ruined. It's not much right now, but if it continues, you'll get ruts and everything else.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, if that is an issue, we could consider adding a curb, a vertical curb on the edge to try to, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to,
Don't spend any more money.
okay, thank you.
Dean, I think, I appreciate what you've done on this committee for the years, and you obviously know what you're doing. So I think we should allow this company, Florida Transportation, working with you to give them that rumble strip project and see how they carry it out. And then if they do a good job for us, we proceed with them going forward.
I fully support that. Joe Schofield here.
Yeah, the question, Laura, I have a question. Do we need to get this relationship approved by the board? Or can we just do these individual projects without having?
The money is coming out of your budget. I don't believe there would be an issue. We've used other engineers besides Tetra Tech for projects before.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I can't see the reason why it should have to go in front of our board. No.
Yeah. By the way, I should mention that, of course, part of the problem that we are having with our owners with the rumble strips are the cones, the traffic cones that we put in to prevent this crossing over of the double lines. And that's where a lot of the complaints have come from, that these admittedly not very attractive traffic cones are sitting on Veneto. And we need to get rid of those, and we will get rid of those by putting in the other rumble strips.
I totally agree with that, Phil. I think we need to go one step beyond that. And as John mentioned, people driving on the grass, I think we should be looking at that as an issue right now, along with the rumble strips, because these people disregard the speed limits, the passing zones or no passing zones there. And we've got an issue that I don't know how you train people. And I think landscaping in that area is going to become critical. There might be some landscaping that can be put in there that's closer to shrubs that would from driving up on the grass because it can scrape their cars, or as Dean mentioned, a curb. But I think we need to move to that level right now also, because they're going to do it. We just might as well accept that they're going to try to get around everything we do.
But I think we should go to Florida Transportation, working with Dean, and see what their recommendation is.
Absolutely. I'm just urging we go one step beyond.
Pardon?
Let your committee make your recommendation.
Yeah,
Don't have the board try to engineer.
no,
That's right.
I just urge you to go one step.
Yeah,
further.
my suggestion is that we get their recommendation and that the SSWG works with the landscape work group, if necessary, to come up with a solution.
We're fully there to support you.
That's
Yep.
terrific. Thank you.
That I think that's the way to go. Okay. Any other questions of Dean on this subject? Okay, so Dean, I think it is the consensus of the Ppac that we should be using Florida transportation engineers. If we continue to find their work to be satisfactory, that is very acceptable.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, we're on to the selection of a new Ppac member. We have 3 applicants, 3 people who have indicated an interest in joining us. Gary Gallucci, Carol Pankow, and Philip Fine. Do we have any comments on these folks or on the process in general?
First of all, I think we should thank all of them for applying.
And I believe they're all 3 here, correct? Carol's here, Gary's here. They're all 3 here, Phil.
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Well, we thank you for applying. I had suggested that we each, based on resumes and anything else, our judgment and anything else we know about these folks, as well as some of the criteria that we've put down, that we each rate, come up with a rating for each of these people. They're all very good. They all have a wonderful background, so it's a tough thing to do, but something that we need to do in order to make a selection. Are there any comments? If not,
Phil, once you get into it, I don't know how this will roll out. I would like to speak on one of their behalf. So I don't know if we're each going to do that or
that's fine.
stuff will
No,
work.
that's appropriate, Doug. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
Have each of them come up and just introduce themselves to us and give a little quick blurb.
That would be good, Joe. Let's start with that. Gary, do you want to come up and give us a quick overview of, you had quite a bit on your resume, but you may want to say more to us.
You may want to look at what I wrote.
Gary?
Yes, I'm here, Phil.
He's working
getting
his way.
papers.
Yep, he's going to get his.
You gonna make it, Joe?
Do you need water?
Oh,
Do you need some water?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gary Gallucci. I live in Pelican Preserve. I've been there for 14 years. I'm a part-time resident, soon to be full-time, we hope. We're working on that. I'm currently here 7 months plus a month split between September and October.
so about 8 months a year. I have a background in facilities management, a very strong background. I was head of Connecticut Physical Properties and had a 32-year career with them. I handled everything from construction to hiring of architects, engineers, grounds maintenance, security, facilities operation, pretty much everything a guy would be expected to do. Had a very good working relationship with the state of Connecticut. I have other experience. I had my own construction firm for a period of time, Galucci Builders. I also was licensed by the state of Connecticut for water treatment. I had my own company called Pure Water LLC. I have a working knowledge of carpentry, electrical, mechanical, water treatment, HVAC, grounds, landscaping, pretty much everything that I think the job would be required to have some knowledge of. I work good with groups. I am interested in the position. I'm interested in doing a good job in anything I do. Currently, I'm serving in the Bellagio board as treasurer secretary, as well as grounds chairman. And prior to that, I spent 4 years as president of the Tiberio HOA. So I have experience in certainly what goes on in Pelican Preserve. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah. Any questions of Gary? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next candidate, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary, appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Carol Pancaw. I live on Avila Circle in Pelican Preserve. I have spent a number of years in government service, and you have probably the resume and everything in front of you. So I'm not going to go through all that. One of the intriguing things to me, though, was for a number of years, on and off, I've been attending the CDD meetings. Because when we first moved here about 3 years ago, I noticed over $1,000 of my property tax bill was coming from that CDD. And I wanted to know who those people were and what they controlled. So I spent time there. And it was amazing that they would from time to time refer to the Ppac advisory board. And I'd think, who's this Ppac advisory board? But it's amazing that they have a extremely high approval rating of you. And if you approve it, they approve it also. And I think that is a terrific compliment and to you and to the service of the volunteers on this committee. I also found out over the years that the work is actually done in committees. You can discuss things on boards and vote one way or another, but the real work, the real discussion, the real questions are always done in committee. And that's why I would like to see what this advisory board is all about. And I appreciate your consideration. Any questions?
Any questions of Carol?
Carol, I have one question. I loved your resume. I was extremely impressed. The most important, and the question I have, which may be irrelevant, you had a small business at one time?
Yes, an auto body repair shop.
That impressed me more than the other business.
I can drive a tow truck and I can tow your car if I have to.
You know, the small business.
But it's been a while.
Small business is.
It's been a while.
In your career with the government, were you involved in budgets?
Yes.
In what
Yes.
sense?
My degree is in accounting from the University of Illinois. So when I was on the county board, in the General Assembly, I started actually on the school board. That's where I learned budgeting first, and how specific budgets are for specific things. And you have to be very careful not to mix the money between one account and another. And just because you've got this total amount of money doesn't mean you can spend it the way you think you want to spend it. It's for specific things. So in through all of that, where others concentrated on maybe education issues or welfare issues or whatever, I always concentrated on the financial things. So I was on all the budgeting committees. I was on the finance committee, I was on the executive committee in the Illinois General Assembly.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
I have,
Yeah, go ahead. Other questions? Somebody else has a question, Carol.
question. I should have asked Gary this also, but I'll ask all three candidates if they could address it. One of the things, and Carol brought it up, committees. We do have several committees that are standing, and from time to time, we establish some separate special committees for a specific project. And that's time consuming at times. And the willingness to participate and jump onto those things is something that I think is important. If you understand that can happen, and we need volunteers. Some of us are already committed to committees, so we have a limited pool of resources. So that's, I would imagine you would all be willing to step up to the plate and do for us.
Yes.
And Gary says yes also.
Yeah. Okay. Good point, Joe.
This brings up another another thing in my mind. Since we only have the luxury of inviting one person to join this committee, would you consider being on another of the work group committees in Pelican Preserve? Think about that.
When you say work groups, Randy, you're referring to the
Landscape work group. I'm thinking, with
the Ppac work groups.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We are
Safety,
recruiting for
security, those-
landscaping.
I know, and you've already recruited my two neighbors, Kathleen Anderson and Norma.
Well, a community can always have 3 or 4.
I don't think you'd want the three of us on there, on that committee. Because we would make sure that, Wine was a member of that committee also.
Okay.
Maybe an improvement.
Any other questions of Carol?
No, thank you, Carol.
If not, thank you, Carol. We appreciate it. And Philip, do you want to come up and give your pitch?
First of all, I think I'm going to go out and buy a lotto ticket, because what are the odds of 2 people from Connecticut being at this meeting today? Impossible, right? My name is Philip Fine. I'm from Connecticut and probably the newest resident of Pelican Preserve. A baby. I've been here for 2 weeks. We actually bought our house in March of last year in Matarita. Came down here 2 weeks ago, and I happened to see an email from one of the administrative offices at Pelican, which I haven't quite figured out yet, about this committee. And I said, I've got some experience that may be a good fit. It may not be. So I thought I'd come to the meeting and see what you guys think. My professional background is I'm a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut, mechanical, although I did start out in civil and decided I would work with pipes and dirt. So I switched over to mechanical. I spent the last 30 years of my career as a vice president of a design build engineering and construction company based in Connecticut, doing mechanical and electrical retrofit work, primarily retrofit, not new construction, in industrial and commercial buildings. And I retired from that about 6 years ago. I've continued my involvement with some of the projects that needed some ongoing oversight. My background, I think that may be pertinent here, is I was president and on the board of governors of a housing group or a housing area in Niantic, Connecticut. Anybody here familiar with Connecticut?
Yes.
It's near New London. Crescent Beach Association. Crescent Beach consists of about 250 houses, not on the scale of Pelican Preserve or any of these developments in Florida, but the concept is the same. And we had our own zoning regulations. We had We owned 2 beaches. We had what we call a snack stand, which was a building, a room similar to this, plus an outside area. We had an annual budget of about $75,000 a year. And we were a taxing entity, so the residents of Crescent Beach paid taxes to the town of East Lyme, also to Crescent Beach Association. And I was in that position for 5 years. The rumble strip issue that you mentioned, I had a chuckle because it seems no matter where you go, you wind up with an issue like that. So that's nothing new to me. The other current assignment I have is I'm on the Harbor Commission in Waterford, Connecticut, which is the next town over. We manage the near coastal waterways, and Waterford is bounded by 2 rivers, the Thames River on the east side, the Niantic River on the west side. So our management oversight extends up those 2 rivers. We manage moorings, we manage designation of swim areas, water skiing areas. We get rid of derelict boats. We get rid of anything that impacts the safety, any kind of a hazard to navigation that would show up in our waters. That's what we're responsible for. We also have interaction with the Army Corps of Engineers on dock permits, so we have to work with the Corps. Occasionally, we have some interaction with the Navy because part of our town extends up to across the river from the subbase, and we had to remove a derelict marina to make room for the Navy to turn their, I guess it's the Virginia class subs that they're bringing up there now, which are the other one. Anyway, I think I'd be a good fit. I think I understand how these commissions work. I think my technical background is, I think it would be better if I was a civil engineer, but from what I can see of what your jurisdiction is, it really doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm familiar with handling contractors, engineers, and subcontractors. I've done it for a long, long time. The concept is the same. Thank you.
Oh, Phil,
Yeah, questions of Philip?
question by Glenn. There's a lot of communities where you moved here. Why'd you pick Pelican?
Because they had a woodworking shop.
Pardon?
They had a woodworking shop.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. I'm serious.
What are you making, birdhouses or?
Well, whatever how did you guess? That's the first thing that my wife wants me to make. I do a lot of woodworking, and we were living in Cape Coral, and we were just out in the community, and I said, we really need to live in a place where there's a community with activities. And so we drove around, this is 2 years ago now. And when I found out, because they're all so similar, I found out this had a woodworking shop. That's what made the deal.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
You're here full time?
no, I'm not. I should point that out. I'm here probably for about 4 months. That's going to increase, but I can't tell you when. That could be a deal breaker. So that's the way it is right now.
Very good.
Other questions of Philip?
I have a question for all 3. Your resumes are fantastic.
Yeah.
Would any of you consider being our COO, who we just lost,
No.
and not get paid?
Oh, man.
Well, if they're volunteering, they love to volunteer, right?
I would be interested in serving on one of those subcommittees, though, that you mentioned. If it was pertinent to my experience, that would be fine.
I want to be a COO.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, and I think that is a pertinent comment, because 2 of you will not be selected for this position, but maybe we can get you to serve on some of the on our one of our work groups, because we really can't have 2. Because of the sunshine laws, we can't have 2 of us serving on a work group. So that's an interesting thing to look forward to. Any other questions of Philip? Thank you, Philip. We appreciate it.
I'm impressed with all 3, and thank you so much for even considering this.
Yeah.
Tough decision.
Okay. Now, Doug, you mentioned that you wanted to make a supporting statement for one of the candidates.
Yes, I did. I've worked with Carol since she came to Pelican Preserve. I know her well. We've worked together. I'll go through a list of why I feel this way. Number one is that she's a full-time resident. Number two, she's got a lot of government experience, especially in the finance area. If you think about being a senator and a representative in Illinois for 20 years, that's a big thing. She's got a lot of experience in this government and working on committees. Number three, she was co-chairman with me to help Bob Gebhardt when we ran Bob Gebhardt's election for the CDD board. She worked, always volunteered. She was a co-chairman with me to get Bob elected for that. Number four, she's currently on, we all talked about being on subcommittees and stuff. She's currently on the PPCA finance subcommittee with her strong finance background. And number five, I think we should consider this too. She brings some diverse ideas and differences to this board that I think would be positive. So for all those reasons, I endorse her for this position.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Questions of Doug? Do we have any other support statements that people would like to make?
Well, Glenn Sikorsky, I've worked with Gary when I was a president of the Verona Association prior to coming on this committee, and I've seen his concerns brought up and how he handled them. So I think he would be a good fit too for our committee.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I think what I'm going to do is call for people to tell us, and recognizing that all three of the people have wonderful resumes. So the selection is a very tough one to make, but I'd like each of us to come up with the candidate that they think should serve as a member of the committee. So let me start off with Randy.
Phil, Carol will get my vote in, and as you mentioned, you all have great resumes. I think since Teresa is resigning, that it makes sense for us to have some diversity on this board. And so it's part gender and it's part background.
Okay. Okay, Teresa, you're still a member, so you still get a vote.
Okay, well, I totally agree with Randy. I think everybody has a great resume, and I do thank you all for applying. And my vote goes to Carol also.
Okay. Joe?
Well, I can't disagree with anything that's been said. I like two candidates very much. I think Carol has great credentials, and Gary has great credentials, and so does Phil. I'm concerned about Phil not being here that much, and I think the job requires a little more time on site here. But I would support Gary in this case.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to Glenn.
Well, I'll make it interesting. I've worked with Gary. I endorse Gary, and the other two candidates I think are well qualified. I think, Phil, you've chosen a good community, but you need to be here a little bit longer and, and get involved with us as work groups and down the road, because I'll tell you, I'm not going to be on this committee forever either. So my vote goes to Gary.
Okay. Doug, I think we know where your vote goes. Any other statements to make?
No, I do agree that we have three great candidates, and we have to find a way to engage them in other areas, the ones that don't get this committee on the board. Yeah, I have Carol.
Okay. John?
I think we do have three great candidates, but I'm going to be a sexist here and probably vote for a nice young lady because we're losing a nice young lady. And we need diversity on our committee. So I'd vote for Carol.
Okay. And I echo all of the nice comments that have been made by these people or about these people, and appreciate all three of them applying for this job. I also would support Carol for a couple of the reasons given. So it would appear that Carol is our selection, but we want to thank Gary and Philip. And as a couple of people have mentioned, we hope we will be able to engage you in our work groups as they get going here, or they are going. And hopefully the chair people or the liaisons will engage you. So congratulations, Carol, and many thanks to Gary and Philip.
Thank you.
Any further comments? We will need to, I would ask for a motion, because we need to take Carol's name to the board. So I would entertain a motion to appoint Carol.
I'll make a motion to appoint Carol to
Okay.
the Ppac board.
Okay.
That,
I'll second it.
Seconded, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, any opposed? None opposed. So Carol, again, thank you and congratulations. It'll take a little while, but we'll need to get you on the agenda for the, as soon as we can. Laura, I assume that would be the,
Laura's not
oh, Laura has departed. Okay, well, I'm assuming that would be the 2 meetings hence, because it's hard to get on the board agenda, but it would be
Bill,
done.
this is Bob. I'm going to try and bring it up verbally at the meeting. I don't think
Okay.
I'd
That
like
would-
to have it for the next Ppac.
And here comes Laura.
Me too.
Oh,
February 3rd.
you're saying it would be the February 3rd meeting?
Correct, because the agenda is already done for the one for the 20th, so the next meeting
Yeah.
after that would be
Well,
February.
Bob is going to try and bring it up, but in any event, Carol, we'd ask you to, I guess we won't have another meeting before the 3rd of February anyway, so
Correct.
either way, that
Your
will
next
work.
meeting would be the week after, so that'll be fine.
Yep, okay. Any further discussion on this?
All right.
If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Scott, I think I'm going to ask you to step forward and talk a little bit about the Avila road replacement and the bids we got.
Okay, thank you, Phil. My apologies for not being present. I'm in COVID protocol right now, so I should be back in the office next Monday. What you were sent were 2 proposals. Both of these vendors are vetted by the district, so these are district vendors who have done road work within Gateway. The first one we have is Atlantic Southern, and the second one we have is Bonus. I would like the staff at the district to review these, but based on my review, both of the proposals call for the same work, and Bonus came in at $83,058.80, and which is substantially lower than Atlantic Southern at $96,246. So based on those amounts, I would recommend going with Bonus. I hope all of you have had a chance. I know, John, I know you've been involved with road work before and wanted to hear any comments that you might have.
As long as they meet all the requirements, and you're happy with the low bidder, and you have experience with the low bidder at all?
I do not, the district does.
The district has used both of these vendors.
And you've had no issues,
No, not that I'm aware of with either, no.
people coming
It
back
usually
for
comes down to
asking for
price.
extras and stuff like that?
Yeah, it usually comes down to price.
Scott, I would ask that you have them redo their bid to the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee, not the Community Association.
Yes.
Well, it's actually, oh, yeah, that.
Well, it's actually the
It's for the,
Gateway Community Development District, not Ppac.
not Ppac. That's who it has to go to, exactly.
Yes.
You know, we are just advising. The actual selection will
That's
be.
fine. GSCD.
Further comments?
I just have a question for Scott. Are we sure that both use the same materials?
That's why I wanted the staff to take a quick look at that. Based on what I know, it is the same material, but I need you to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, the one company put a very nice proposal together with the pictures and so forth.
Yeah, Atlantics are usually a little more detailed than the ones we get from Bonas.
Okay, as long as the CDD is comfortable with either company.
Yeah, we'd have to look and make sure like that it's apples to apples.
Okay.
Same work, same materials, all of that, or comparable materials.
Okay. If the CDD agrees that they're comparable, what do we need to do at this point? Can we approve this or do we have to
Well,
wait?
I think what we need to do is to pass or have a motion to say that we ask for the CDD's approval or a confirmation or approval of the selected vendor pending review of the staff by the staff, so that we don't have to wait. So that can come up as quickly as possible, probably for the February 3rd meeting.
Would you like me to make a proposal then? Because I'm
Yes.
happy to do that. Okay, I'd make a proposal that we move forward with the issuing a contract to pave the Avila roads. And we recommend Bonas, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
Bonas is our preferred supplier, providing the CDD agrees that the properties that are going to be put on the street are equal or comparable.
Do we have a second to Joe's motion?
Can we make that a motion and I'll second it?
Okay. What did I say? No, I didn't say the motion.
You said proposal.
I make a motion.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's a motion to recommend to the
CD that
we select Bonas.
Bonas is our preferred vendor, providing the contract or the proposals are equal material.
Okay. And second was from Teresa.
Yes.
Yep.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? If not, the motion is carried. And we'll move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is the association manager report, which includes Weiser. Scott, anything to?
Wait a minute. There was an item inserted there, Mr. Chairman, discussion of study of reserves first.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, you don't see that on the printout of the,
Okay,
it's on our screen here.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yep.
Well, you know, I sent out an email to Jack Richards, who did that last reserve proposal about 5 years ago. And he's moved out of Pelican, which doesn't matter, but he's no longer providing that service. So we have to decide as a committee how we proceed on that, to have that study of have an updated reserve study.
I think at this point, we probably ought to appoint a member of the committee to establish a work group to find other vendors who provide these kind of services so we can get a bid. And
Well,
Scott can certainly help with that process.
I can assist with that.
Mhm.
Okay, and I'll work with Scott then on that, Glenn.
Okay.
Because, it affects our financials, et cetera, and I'd be willing to do that.
Okay. Further comments on this subject?
Laura, does the district have reserve consultant?
We do not.
What was the question, Bob?
We will be Bob asked if the district had a reserve consultant. We actually did add a line item onto the budget for do a reserve study this year. We're actually looking for one.
Oh, okay, well, I'll keep in touch too.
Okay.
If you see someone or find a company out there doing it.
Okay.
All right?
I know that the firm that we're looking at to do our auditing actually does reserve. It would probably be beneficial to have a company or separate firm.
Does it?
No, Infomark doesn't do our auditing.
Oh,
They just do our financials. We have to hire a third party
auditor.
to do an audit.
All right. Well,
Okay.
Scott, we'll work with Laura.
Sounds like a plan.
Further.
I'm not coming to see you till next week.
Further discussion on this subject. Any questions? I think the questions will come when we get a bids in. Okay. Now I'll move on to the next subject, which is the association manager report and Wiser. Scott, anything to report?
Well, thank you. I believe that Wiser security staff may have arrived to the meeting. Is anybody from Wiser in the room?
They are approaching the mic.
Very good. They will provide us with their updates since they took over the services.
We've got two very big fellas standing at the podium.
That's right. They're there to cover for me.
Okay.
We were both police officers, and that was back in the day when they hired you based on your size.
Oh.
Now they don't do that.
They don't do that anymore.
They did away with that.
Gentlemen, if you will introduce yourselves and give us your report.
Well, I have the traffic numbers from last month. I understand that you wanted to know the traffic numbers, as well as there's been some issues with the Dwelling Live printer that's in the gatehouse. We notified Dwelling Live that the printer is out. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but when the printer's out and the guards go to log people in, if the printer isn't out, there's a button they hit, it prints a pass and also logs them in the system. So when the printer's out, that's not happening. So the numbers are probably a little bit lower than what they have been. But for November 21st to December 21st, it was a little over 70,000 cars, 11,000 visitors, and the rest were residents. And we've contacted Dwelling Live to come look at the printer, and they're going to do that on their own timeline. I don't know when. They haven't gotten back to us, but obviously it's a priority. We want to solve it so that your numbers can be accurate. But as far as what's going on in the gatehouse, we did just have the supervisor resign for personal reasons, for no other reason than that. They're moving out of town. So we're looking to fill that position immediately. We're going to do that as fast as we can. And I'm hoping it wouldn't be more than a week or two, but I can't really give you a timeline on that. I'm the new account manager for Pelican Preserve for Wiser. And so I'm sort of just halfway, my foot is in the door. So have a little sympathy on that. And Chris is here because he knows a lot more about it than I do. Like I said, I just got here.
What's your name?
Yeah, what's your name? Can you give us your names and your titles in
Yes.
Wiser?
I'm a account manager, Louis Chipetta.
Okay.
And this has no bearing, but where were you a police officer?
Oh, I was here in Lee County.
Okay.
I was a Lee County Sheriff's deputy for 26 years. I did most everything in the agency, you name it, I did it.
Mhm.
And then when I got my PhD in 2017, I retired and I was, I'm still teaching, but I decided I wanted to do more. So I was a security director at a community in Naples for the last 3 years. And then when they went to, they got rid of in-house security and got private security, then that's when it brought me to Weiser.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good.
I'm Chris. I'm the senior operations manager here, well, for all of South Florida. So I get around just about everywhere from Bradenton down to Marco Island and then out to the east towards Clewiston and west to the coast. So my travels take me around just about all of South Florida every week. So some of the things that we're experiencing, I'm sure if you guys have been in neighborhoods and you've been to local businesses, you're seeing that there is a strong reduction in the enthusiasm of the workforce. Probably the industries that it will affect the most are our customer service industries down here, whether they be restaurants and or things such as security. It's been a very difficult year, as I'm sure it's been for most people that are involved in any type of business, whether it be large or small on a corporate basis. So all I can tell you is that the pond that we all fish out of doesn't necessarily have the best fish in it. And until we start to see, I guess what I would say a resurgence in a dedicated workforce, we're all dealing with that. Partnerships can sometimes become strained because of the lack of the available workforce, but our job is to try and staff as much as we can and try to select the best candidates. They are becoming harder to find because of the COVID situation that we're dealing with now. I think it's great that you have people that are willing to come in and volunteer. I think that's absolutely wonderful, but that's the generation that most of us have grown up in. The newer generation isn't as giving as we would be. So we did have some last minute information that came in from Dwelling Live. They have assured us that they are aware of the issue. They are looking into it and they are hoping to have that resolved by the end of this week. So if we can get them on board and get the hardware issues completed over there at the gatehouse, it's certainly gonna make an improvement. We do have a couple of candidates that the assistant vice president is interviewing tomorrow for the supervisor position now. So those are people that have been within our organization for more than a couple of years and have extensive experience working in multiple gatehouses. So I think that's going to be a plus for us. Unfortunately, with the loss of some people, it does provide the opportunity for others to move up and move within. So we're looking forward to interviewing those folks tomorrow and getting a selection made before the first of the week.
Thank you, Phil. I'd like to say, how's your reception been in Pelican with your staff? Good?
I'm Chris, so.
Chris.
That's okay.
No, I was about to say to Phil.
Oh,
my
okay.
chairman.
Oh, all right, I apologize.
So go ahead, Chris. What's your reception been like?
My reception has been, for the most part, pretty good. I don't see any issues that they have with necessarily the residents in the community. I will say while on site this afternoon, what I find is that sometimes their barcodes, maybe this is because of the way they approach the gates, don't necessarily always open. We have a lot of people that try to piggyback. So when they're flying up behind another vehicle and the gate's coming down, barcode can't read them. And then that's where some of the verbal confrontations come from. Yeah. And some of those verbal confrontations can be as simple as, hey, can you please open a gate, all the way up to, some cursory that goes on from the front gate and belittling of the officers. So, I mean, we understand that it happens. There's many different personalities, that live within our communities. But other than that, I think the interaction has been fine. I don't think there's been any issues up front with the officers per se and the residents that come in. I think for the most part, they do have a great group of residents that live in the community.
Good.
Chris, I have a comment and a question. We have gotten some unsolicited reports that were very favorable about Weiser and your staff. And so we feel gratified by that whenever you make a big change. So I think I wanted to acknowledge that and thank you and your staff. I did also want to see if we could get a bit of an update on where we're at with the post orders. If you could comment that. I know that Chris Santos had been out some during the holidays and may still be out, but where do we stand with that, with the revised orders?
Okay. I will tell you, I'm not 100% sure what they've done with the order since John vacated the position. My position will be to go back and see if the red lines have been completed. So red lines are out on the post. Generally, the process that we go through is we have what would be called a kind of a can set of post orders where they have site specifics, which are the things that you folks want. And then we have the general specifics that our company puts in there with those. The company specifics, they all know because it's from every site that we have. To be an employee there, you have to know what the company itself wants. And then, of course, the site specifics are what each community wants. I've not seen anything in those orders that would be conflicting in any way. So the only thing I have to do is I will check to find out and report back to Scott as to the red lines to make sure that those were all completed and that those are in the officer's hands. So, and Lewis is, like I said, he's getting his feet wet in the door a little bit, but he's got a extensive background in security management. He was a security director for a large community down in Naples for over 3 years. So I feel very, very confident that he's going to be able to pick up this carriage and run with it. I do appreciate the fact that the residents have just displayed pleasurable experiences. But everybody's human, and I'm sure there are probably some unfavorable experiences as well. But I'm very appreciative that people are willing to say things about the good, because in our society, it seems like the unfavorable comments usually seem to outweigh the favorable.
I agree. That's why I never trust reviews.
Now, with regard to the post orders, I believe that we need to approve those. That is, this committee needs to approve them and recommend the revised post orders to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, I will
So
look at.
we need to get those. We need to have the approval, and Randy, I believe, you've been working on them.
Yes, with Chris, and I think that
and you need
back to Chris.
Right now, they're just waiting on the red line adjustments from Weiser. And
Okay.
once we have those, we can send it to the committee for final approval.
Good. So we should be able to give it final approval at our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Last
Any?
My last name is Piper. It's real simple, not like the actress, P-I-F-E-R. Okay.
Okay.
My background is I'm also a retired law enforcement. Worked with DOD, Merchant Marine Officer, and worked for WCI Communities for a period of time. I was a manager of construction up at the Venetian Golf and River Club up in Venice. So
we won't hold that against you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a tumultuous year in 2006. So anyway, but record that is my last name, ma'am.
So Chris,
Thanks.
To answer another question that we have as far as rumble strips and stuff.
Yes, sir.
What are those devices that police put on the roads to stop a flea?
You're talking about stop strips.
Yeah, with nails and stuff.
Yeah. Having some experience working in other communities, if I may, the rumble strips keep decent people from speeding. Rumble strips in their history have not, unfortunately, been proven very, very effective with slowing cars down. Main reason why is because, especially if you look at the type of vehicles we have these days, most of them are very comfortable. So running over a half-inch rumble strip, 1-inch rumble strip really does nothing inside the vehicle and doesn't go down. So, I mean, I've had this issue at numerous communities in South Florida, and it seems like probably one of the most effective ways, and I'm sure you guys, as I do know in Gateway, they have agreements with the LCSO to run traffic control. So if you want to affect change in people that violate the law, the only way you can do that is to hit them where it hurts them the most, which is in their pocket. And I think if they were able to have a selective traffic unit that you had, which you could obviously contract to come out, I'm sure those guys would be more than happy to do that. The only issue is you're also going to face a lot of whiplash back from certain people in your communities because of their presence and their enforcement.
I think our problem is we've brought folks in and they give people warnings. They don't give them tickets.
Because cops are nice.
Well, in this case, we don't want them to be.
Yeah, so your enforcement efforts would need to be directed towards, Sheriff Carmine. And let him know, look, this is a serious issue here, and we would like to see a little bit more stringent enforcement.
Actually, we're the city of Fort Myers. The sheriff doesn't come in.
Oh, okay, so City of Fort Myers, you want to get with the chief of police?
Ward 6 meeting yesterday, they announced there were 6 stops by the police in Pelican Preserve last month, but they didn't, if there were citations given. I'm sorry, 8 of them.
Yes.
Tolerance in my career has always proven to be most effective for a short period of time, and then once you have allowed the people that are actually violating, your speed laws and your traffic signals, that will subside. But you have to hit it with a period of zero tolerance.
So how do we ask the police to not be polite and give tickets rather than warnings?
Well, you can be polite and give a ticket. Over 21 years, I was polite and I issued a lot of citations in a selected traffic unit. I was a motor officer for 11.
I have a question regarding the speed limit there is 15 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give a ticket for somebody going 22 miles an hour?
Absolutely. The state statutes are very clear in that. There is prima facie law that you have a variance of about 5 miles an hour. Once you go below 5 miles an hour, the state law says basically that it's hard to determine that someone is in fact speeding at that number, even with as accurate as our speedometers are these days. But once you cross that threshold, it is absolutely statutorily correct to issue a citation for anything over that amount.
So they can be ticketed
Absolutely.
going 20 mile an hour.
But the problem, John, is that the Fort Myers Police Department will not enforce anything under 25.
And well, that's what I've been told. We have no say on that.
Unfortunately, as a community, you're not, because it's going to fall under the jurisdiction of the actual police, chief. And what his standard operating procedure is for his, officers.
And we cannot ask him here at Pelican to change that.
You can ask. I mean, whether he's going to be willing to bend his policies is another story. I wish I could give you a better answer. I understand what you're saying and feel the need, because I'm sure you have not only people that are walking your streets, you have younger people that are also out there, and vehicles are, can create quite a bit of danger for people that are walking out here, especially people if they're walking their dogs in the evenings, things like that. I wholeheartedly agree with you 100%.
Well, the other issue with the rumble strips, you're correct. They do not affect the cars, but they're very difficult for the golf carts to go through.
Yeah, the golf carts will get rattled by them.
Well, and John, interestingly enough, and I think Dean can probably maybe quote the statistics, but that at least our initial experience when we put the rumble strips in is they slowed a lot of people down. We had many fewer people speeding or going well over the speed limit than we did. We had many more before they were put in than after.
They're going over the grass now. They're avoiding that by going over the grass.
Well, that may be,
Full for the grass.
Yep. Is all I can say is this is a constant issue that the Safety and Security Work Group looks at. And, there's certain people who just not obey the laws.
Now, there are laws that if you have areas, if I may interject, you do have other statutes that prevent people from driving off the road. Now, then again, you will need to probably want to get with the police department and find out if through their enforcement efforts, if they are able to do anything about that as well.
But Chris, we're a golf cart community.
Correct.
So there's rules, like how do we enforce those rules? Like the other night, I'm walking my dog and coming down the sidewalk's a guy in a golf cart.
Yeah.
And he's on the other side of the road. And I go like this and he waves. He thought I was waving at him.
That was polite.
Yeah. So,
Can I suggest that we're not going to settle these issues here today?
I know,
So-
I'm just curious about the golf cart enforcement with police.
Yeah.
And the city police enforce golf cart infractions. No,
No, they're not able to.
there you go.
You're also talking about private property, even if there's a community agreement, it's still private property, semi-public access if you have a contract for them. And if you're dissatisfied with what the city's telling you, it is still in the county, you might be able to contract a county detail. I mean, for many years, I worked in Gateway, just as a contract extra duty detail. And all we did was run traffic, and we were told, write tickets if you can, and I was okay with that.
Very good.
I mean, like he said, I could be very polite and still issue a ticket. That's why I'm there.
We still have an agreement with Lee County for Gateway.
I worked
Yeah.
there for a decade.
I love seeing the emails that come with what they did for the day.
Yeah, you had to be radar certified and willing to write tickets, even to
We-
detail.
But may I suggest that the Safety and Security Work Group will look at all of these issues? We've been down trying to get the sheriff in here before, but we can look at that again. But I don't think this is something that we can settle at this meeting. Is there any other things that Wiser that you guys would like to tell us? New information?
Not at this time. No new information, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you both for coming in and giving us the information you did. We appreciate it. We appreciate what Wiser's doing. We had certainly very good reports on you when we hired you, and we're expecting things to be going well. So, and we recognize that you're fighting a difficult situation with the whole COVID and lack of qualified people at this point. Thank you. Thank you. Scott, anything more to report as far as association?
Not association wise, just wanted to notify, well, first of all, I want to thank Chris and Lewis for coming to the meeting today. That was greatly appreciated, gentlemen.
Our pleasure.
Besides that, we do have another inspection of the boardwalk coming up next Monday, the 17th. And what they're going to inspect is the placement of the sleeves for the bollards. And that's the only other item that's coming up in the near future. Although we are going to be removing some sections of the asphalt throughout the preserve area and around the preserve area as part of our repair and maintenance to the golf cart path. And that's it.
Any questions of Scott?
Nope.
Okay, if not, we'll move on to the Ponds Work Group. Doug, you're on.
Okay, I'll cover it pretty quickly. First of all, our dashboard is all green. Our current situation, if you look through the key areas, it's in the data I shipped to Georgia, and you should all have a copy of that. And Outlook, it's all green. So we're in pretty good shape, but that time of the year, it is in good shape. I also attached a budget view from Laura from January 10th. The top line of the spreadsheet that I cut and pasted somehow it got deleted. But the first column there, I'll just use the first one, the contract pond maintenance waterways, 100,395. That's the signed contracts not billed. So that's the yearly contract amount that's still unbilled. The second column is the 18,000, which is the amount billed. So when you see the 92% used, the reason it's so high is because it takes into account the contracts we've signed for the entire year. So right now we're at 19% that we've billed. That's the second column. We're about 19% of our total budget built, and we're in good shape. The only one I'm watching right now is the stormwater system. Looks like we spent the majority of our money already, but that's because at certain times of the year, that's when we do the inspection of the stormwater system. It's 94%, and most of that has been billed already. So I've already talked to the person on the team responsible for that, and it's Peter Audette, and we are watching that line item going forward. A couple other things you should know about. Looks like we will be looking at putting a sound barrier around some of the aerators. The compressors make a lot of noise. Some of the residents have been complaining. I'm working with the HOA on that, or someone on our group is working with the Ravenna HOA to build a sound barrier to reduce the sound that comes across. It is a pretty high sound barrier. We believe it'll be 6 or 7 foot high because of the 4-story building of Ravenna. But the HOA will have to approve that. We will do it, but the HOA would have to approve it's okay to do. So that's going on at Ravenna. High-level problem tickets, we have 95 in the last 3 months that have been inserted into our problem ticket system, and we only have 3 that are not resolved. Our pond maintenance vendors are doing a good job with only 3 not resolved. Drainage project, we should complete that at Matarita by the end of January, a few weeks more. It might expand into February because of personal family emergency with the contractor. And we're talking with Prado, which is the last HOA, of how to proceed. So that's where we are there. And the only other thing, we only have 1 aerator that's not working as of January 10th. Any questions? Anything you would like to ask?
No, any questions of Doug?
Nope.
Okay, if not, we'll move on to the Safety and Security Work Group. And Dean, would you give us a report?
Sure. Thank you, Phil. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. So as far as the Safety Security Work Group is concerned, we do have several items that we've got on our plate that we're working with. Speed monitoring in the community. We're doing that on a periodic basis, 2 weeks at a time, different locations. We're moving the equipment around to areas where observed speeds might benefit from police traffic enforcement. 15 miles an hour is an issue, notwithstanding the other comments. The Fort Myers Police Department seems to have a resistance to issuing citations, though we have asked and we will ask again to enforce and issue citations rather than education. We're measuring speeds relative to posted limits. Typically, speeds would be measured at a, as you heard Chris say, you know, like 15 miles an hour plus 5. Well, we would have expected plus 10 miles per hour, but we're measuring at the posted speed. So a 15 mile an hour speed limit, if you exceed the limit, we get it as an exceedance on the monitoring equipment. And as a point of information to what Phil was saying on Veneto, before the rumble strips were installed, we had done speed studies to document baseline conditions, and we had 24% of the traffic that obeyed the speed limit. So 76% exceeded the speed limit, some of it by pretty sizable amount. After the rumble strips went in, we were getting 52% compliance. So there was a pretty significant improvement in compliance. The traffic cones may have helped there. If they drove off into the grass, we got them in the speed test anyway, but still we don't want that to happen. So the rumble strips have had a positive effect on speeds, although over time it may not be the best traffic calming device, but it has had some benefit. We're also seeking traffic enforcement for stop signs by the Fort Myers Police Department. We continue, like I said, continue to encourage them to issue citations rather than warnings. We also want to hit the pocketbooks of the violators. First major project, nothing is really major. Additional rumble strips on Veneto on the opposite side that we spoke of earlier. Hopefully this season we'll be able to get that done, and I have contacted FTE while I'm sitting there to let them know that we want to move forward with them on that assignment. We're also looking at pedestrian crossings, particularly at Cypress Grove Drive at Prado Circle near Casella, to consider adding crosswalks and signage. People crossing Cypress Grove Drive from Prado are concerned that there's not a crosswalk until you get down by anyway. We're also looking at the Avila loop at the end and the mid-block to determine if changes might be helpful. Traffic is kind of confused about which way to go. It's two-way traffic on both locations, but some people think it should be one-way traffic. So we need to take a look at that. We're looking at speed limit signs being added on Prado Boulevard where there is none today, and possibly elsewhere. We'll eventually be considering speed humps, maybe stanchions, additional signage and pavement markings, hopefully to reduce speeds. And the security post orders, we understood that they were waiting for final check of the red line. So once we get our final review, then we'll report out and hopefully they'll come to this group for acceptance. And then one last thing I'd like to also do is talk with the club or the new owners of the club to address golf cart crossings, especially on Cypress Grove Drive. And that's my report. Any questions?
Just for clarification, Bob Geppert, the Lee County Sheriff's Department is,
Yeah, I have two updates. One is the Lee County Sheriff, and I
Okay.
have the thing about the.
because that was not
Yep.
free. We paid
No,
for that.
I was gonna, when you guys were
Oh, I
done,
thought
I was
this was
gonna
Dean's.
comment. It is, but I was gonna comment because I
Okay.
have an update on that.
Then
as well.
okay. And the other thing is the Tetra Tech
And that was my second
was a
thing.
task order,
Yeah, that's my
not
second
a
thing.
task order. Okay.
Yeah.
So
You had the
these-
same
these
updates
were-
as I have.
These were notes that I took from the December 14th meeting. Now,
Oh, good. I was wondering where they came from.
you were wondering where they
Thank you.
came from. I didn't put my name on it. I apologize.
Any questions? No, thank you.
Actually, both the things that I needed, well, one I wasn't planning to speak about, but the one I did need to speak with you about is on that list. It's actually not the Lee County Sheriff's Department that's putting the cameras in. We're working with a company called Ppac Security. You may or may not have seen them out here. I saw them, I forget when I was driving around. It was either last Friday or this Monday that I saw them. They were doing the site visits. The cameras should all be getting installed the 20th and the 21st. So next week, the end of next week, they'll be put in. They're not a live stream camera, they're photographs. There's two administrative accounts. I'll be giving this update to the board too, Bob. I figured that was next week. So you guys know before they do. I will have, the CDD will have a login and Lee County Sheriff will have a login to access the data that's captured by those cameras, should they need to use it for something. But it is not a live stream, it's a picture.
That's completely different than what we were told.
No, it's not.
We were told it was live stream.
No.
It was real. That's exactly right. Sat there and heard it.
No, they're photographs. I confirmed it.
I'm sure I support Bob. I heard that at the meeting.
It was live stream.
That was the inference anyhow.
Well, the pictures are sent live, but it's not a stream.
Oh, okay.
The pictures are taken and sent, taken and sent,
But
taken and
it's
sent.
instantaneous communication.
Yes. It's not a constant stream. It's a take the picture, send it, take a picture, send it.
Real time.
Yeah, it's real time. It's not like a video. They're actually
Clarification.
pictures.
Real time, okay.
Yes. It is real time. So as soon as the picture is taken, we'll have access. The second thing is the task authorization, the bottom there, but the lighting for Pelican Preserve. I do need your permission to move some funds around. The engineering budget for the fiscal 22 year is only $12,000, which actually got eaten up by the J. Foster funds for the boardwalk because there was no line item for the boardwalk in the fiscal 22 budget. So I just need to know if you would like me to apply some of your carry forward to the engineering budget so I can cover the cost of the task authorization, which is $6,708 for that street lighting.
Bob, were you able to find out why it's going to cost us almost $7,000 to do a street lighting study?
I talked to Tetra Tech and that's a not to exceed number. He said
Yep.
quite often they come in below that.
Yeah,
So
and I make sure.
we
it
don't
does not
expect
go
it to be anywhere near that amount, but they cover themselves.
Okay.
Did that answer you, Phil?
Hmm?
Did that answer you? Answer the question?
I guess it did. I guess it has to.
Yeah, their bids are always not to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need permission to move some money because right now you do not have any money in your engineering budget to pay for that.
Do we need a motion to do that? Or just a consensus of the committee?
If you guys are okay with it, I will give you an update. I'm gonna have Sonia pull it from the carry forward and we'll put it in there. Because I believe there was some funds left over that weren't used from the boardwalk from last year, so I'll be able to, because there's no line item for that specific thing, but I can take some of the dollars that were not used and put them into the engineering budget.
Yes.
I'll just pull them from your carry forward.
Defer to our accountant.
I'll take $7,000 if that's okay. That way
Yeah.
it gives you a little padding. That's good.
To the committee, this lighting study was part of what the Safety and Security Work Group was going to go forward with because it was kind of demanded. So we will go forward with the lighting study. It's come up a couple of times, and this is the lighting at the corner of Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress Grove. Any questions on that? Okay, Laura, I think you can take it as a consensus of the
Thank you.
group that you can move the budget item.
I'll work with Infomark to make that happen.
Yep. Anything else on that? If not, landscape work group. Joe, you want to give us a report?
I'll make it very brief. We canceled our January 10th meeting because I had COVID and rescheduled it for the 31st. We're going to have about 20 to 25 people join us for that meeting. And the contract, the RFQ has finally been released and submitted for bidding, and the pre-bid meeting will be tomorrow. And L. Harris is going to address some of the details on that for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. L. Harris, Gateway Services District. Yes, our pre-bid meeting for the landscape, exterior landscape maintenance contract within Pelican will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. We will do a bid opening on January 31st. We're looking at starting the new contract in March. I was just looking to make sure Scott's still on there. Scott's going to attend the meeting with us virtually since he is out sick right now. Joe did ask me before the meeting just to reiterate a couple of things about this bid process. Number one, if you get any calls from any vendors, please do not answer any questions to any vendors regarding the contract. Once we have the pre-bid meeting, they are going to submit questions. They will come to one email address, which will be customer care here at Gateway. Then they're going to be forwarded to me and Joe and Scott and the landscape work group. We will put the answers together. Then we'll send out one email to every bidder that's attending the pre-bid. If they are not at the pre-bid meeting, we will not accept a bid from them at the bid opening. We will send out one email. It will list all the questions and all the answers. That way, all of the bidders have exactly the same information. They cannot contest it in any way that somebody else had previous information or they were told something different. This way, everybody gets the same exact information. So if you do get calls, please refer them to send in an email to customercare@gatewaydistrict.org. And that way, there's no confusion. Everybody gets the same information. And
What would you expect for number of potential bidders?
I've had 2 people ask me to send them a package in the email. I've had 2 people stop by and pick it up, and actually, I think I've had 4 people I've sent it out in the email to, and 2 hard copies picked up. So we're getting a good response via email. I did send out a great big and copy Joe and Scott on it with the big email to a lot of local landscape companies.
It went out to about 12 companies.
And some of them had contacted us and said, you know, if this ever comes up or the next time you have a landscape contract going out to bid, please let us know. We would like to submit a bid as well. So, you know, then we send out one invitation to all of these companies and let them know that the bid is coming up. It was also published in the Sunday News Press, and it's published on Demand Star online, and that a lot of contractors have access to that and look for it for bids like this to be posted to Demand Star.
Now, just so I'm clarifying, is it for Gateway and Pelican Preserve or just Pelican?
Just
Preserve?
Pelican.
Just Pelican.
For our CDD.
Okay, and this
asset.
Strictly for us, and we will have to make an approval of the potential contractor and then send that to the CDD for their approval.
And correct me if I'm wrong, our current provider is Ameriscape.
Ameriscape, yes.
Okay.
now, does this also include the irrigation?
Yes.
Yes,
It's my understanding we have different people controlling.
you do.
And could you explain that to me? I'm not
Well,
quite
I'm
clear.
a little bit, I'm not exactly perfectly crystal clear on it. I've got a lot of help from Scott and I got a lot of help from Joe on this, but you do have areas that are shared budgets. Is that right?
Yeah.
In fact,
There, no, I can help with that.
thank you.
There are shared areas and shared expenses within Pelican Preserve have to do with the commercial properties. So that's what shared expenses mean within the budget. It's not shared between the association and the CDD, but shared with commercial. There are 2 types of contracts. The majority of the landscape services contracts are with the CDD. There are areas of the association that are under a separate contract, and there is a separate contract when it comes down to irrigation and the maintenance and oversight of the irrigation system. Because we are under one water use permit, the water use permit is issued to the master association. So according to the documents, the master association controls the scheduling of irrigation, so we are in line with the water use permit. That's why every neighborhood is part of the master schedule. Is that the questions that you were thinking about, or is there more?
I have one comment. Actually, there's 2 irrigation systems. There's the one that Scott was just referring to, but there's also the Prado and part of Matarita that are under Gateway irrigation system. So when the master board makes a decision that maybe we need to cut back in the older areas and the Cypress Grove Boulevard areas, that doesn't affect the Prado Matarita sections that are on Gateway. So that's a completely separate group. But I do think that, I don't know who handles that. Ameriscape works that, or is that the Gateway that handles that?
It's basically Gateway that handles the water use and the restrictions. And then that goes to the neighborhood company, and currently that is Ameriscape.
Okay. And there are areas, I think, Scott, I'll try to maybe stress it a little bit more. There are areas that are specifically controlled by the community association. And I believe, Scott, they use Ameriscape in some of those areas within the community, but they use someone else for the town center.
The town center is actually handled through a contract with the staff at the golf club.
Okay.
That's entirely separate as far as repairs and maintenance, but they are also part of the scheduling through the Master Association for those areas that are irrigated by the master.
Yeah.
And then the CDD operates independently from that service.
Hey, Scott, Bob,
Yes.
does the water for the community other than town center come from the golf course?
It comes from a shared pond. There is
22.
one irrigation pond in the entire community. So that is a shared expense with the golf owners, golf club owners.
That's owned and operated by the golf course, correct?
It is a shared expense, but it is owned by the golf course.
Okay, by shared expense, do the residents pay water bill?
The residents do pay for irrigation, but they don't pay a separate water bill to the association. It's part of their association fees.
As I understand, we're
I'm
paying for
still
the
confused.
electricity, the maintenance, but the water is coming out of an aquifer that we have two wells that go into. There's two different aquifers. So the water's being pumped into that pond, and from the pond it's being pumped to the golf course, the town center, the communities, and the CDD property, all under
Not to
one
the
umbrella.
CDD,
Huh?
not to the CDD
It
property.
does get pumped to the CDD
Oh, yes, it does. Yes.
line on Pelican Preserve
Oh,
Boulevard.
CDD
and
property in that sense, okay.
Along, yeah.
Excuse me,
it's on the road.
differentiated from CDD water.
Correct. It's not part of the
Okay.
CDD water.
No.
So the course wells irrigate Pelican other than Matarita, Prado, and Pistoia.
Correct.
That
And
is correct.
There's a specific
Okay,
water
now
allotment.
do the residents pay for the water, or are we just paying
No.
electricity?
No, my understanding is we do not pay for that water. That water.
Scott, do you concur?
Yes, that you do not pay for water, you pay for the electricity and the repairs to the system.
Okay, in the future, when we have to buy water from the city of Detroit,
You will pay by
which
the
is coming,
gallon.
we will then be paying by the gallon, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody understood the differentiations. Right now, water's been basically free, irrigation water.
That is
Sometimes
correct.
it will not be. But the change in golf course ownership won't change any of this for us?
No.
There's permitted, I have copies of them. There's permits for the association and there's permits for the golf course. And each permit is separate and has an allocation of so many gallons of water per year.
And it's all administered by golf at this time.
Well, the golf course owns the pond, but they can't stop us from getting our allocation of water.
Okay, thank you.
And who owns that pump house and all?
The pump house is owned by the golf course, but the equipment on the association side is owned by the association.
The building's split in half, Randy.
Yeah.
Half of the building is pumping equipment for the golf course. The other half of the building is pumping equipment for Pelican Preserve community.
And each entity pays the expenses for its part of that, of the pump house.
That is correct. And then if there's an area that is a shared agreement with our shared use agreement, then that bill is split by percentage.
Okay. Any questions on this rather complicated setup?
I have another question to Scott regarding landscaping on the center strip from the golf course stop sign to the next stop sign. A lot of that vegetation is dying. Was there a problem with the irrigation there? Because then from the stop sign further on, everything looks perfect.
Depends on the plant material. Some of our
Materials
What
identical.
are you referring to turf?
I'm referring to a lot of the
Bougainvillea
flowers
there.
and everything else. The bushes, they're
The bougainvilleas always check out this time of year. This occurs every year on in that same area where the bougainvilleas are.
if you look at the center strip from the stop sign of the golf course to the next stop sign,
Which is Cypress
Are we
Grove.
talking?
which is Cypress
oh,
Grove,
Okay.
Right.
that center area, most of
Yes.
the vegetation is dying.
Yeah.
But they're continuing down Pelican Preserve Boulevard, the center vegetation is fine. And it's the same type of vegetation. Why is one dying and the other not? Was it a watering problem?
Part of the problem that we're going to be facing going forward is the vegetation in a lot of areas is getting to its life's end.
Nobody's disagreeing with that.
Okay,
I'm asking, have we had a problem with the irrigation on that center strip in one area?
We have not.
I don't, Scott, I think Scott had the answer. I'm not aware, and I don't think Scott's aware.
Can somebody look into that, please?
We'll look into it, but I know what area you're talking about. Yeah.
They're constantly
There's a
monitoring
lot
that.
of dead items there, but from the stop sign further down, it's fine.
You know.
Yeah.
It's how hard they trim the shrubs back.
You're not going to trim it differently in one area versus the other.
They did trim it differently this time because we requested they clear off more from the sidewalks, which made a harder cut.
It has nothing to do with the sidewalks. It's the center strip.
It's also.
Okay, can we move on?
Yeah.
What does
I
this have
agree.
to do with?
Yeah, Scott will look into it and report
Yes.
back.
I'll take care of it.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll finish
Anything
up.
more? Anything more on that? Anything more on landscaping?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's get on to the CDD meeting attendance schedule. CDD meetings, I guess, will be on the 3rd and the 17th. Is that right, Laura?
Correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. We already have,
Yeah, I signed up for the 3rd.
hmm?
I'm signed up for the 3rd.
You are, okay.
Yeah.
And who signed up for the 17th? Do we have anybody who?
I can do the 17th if no one else, if someone hasn't signed up for it.
Okay. So Doug on the 17th. Okay. Thank you. Okay, committee member requests and audience comments. Are there any people in the audience who have comments? If so, please move up to the microphone and introduce yourselves.
No one.
No one, I'm not hearing any committee member requests.
I don't have a request, but I have a question. And this is just if anybody here knows. I live on Prado. We had our final lift the middle of December, and everything has been done except for the roundabout where Prado meets Pistoia. Does anybody know why that hasn't been done?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The reason that has not been done is because that's slated to be pavers. And they're waiting on their delivery of the pavers, and then they'll complete that project.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
That's your answer.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, requests?
I'll just also say it's been an honor serving with you guys, and I'm sorry I won't be able to be here for the festivities going in the future.
Okay. Well, we thank you again for your service to the committee. It's been appreciated.
The honorary sword that we're going to give to our pirate.
Well, hopefully I won't be a pirate forever.
You know, Teresa would bring baked goods every other month.
Don't let them fool you, Carol. I can't bake.
Oh, you had to say something, huh?
Actually, I can bake. I just can't cook.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. Next meeting will be February 10th.
Oh,
Phil?
Yes.
I'll do
Bill,
the,
you were gonna bring up the subject of the bollards.
Oh, I wasn't going to bring them up, but I've seen some emails. People are questioning the construction type equipment around the boardwalk and the cart path. And I just told them that we're putting bollards in, but I don't have anything else to say about it. You're going to put the holes in there, make sure they fit, and then put them to the side, I think.
And I think that's where we're headed, but I would solicit comments from the committee at this point. We haven't really solved the problem. We've kind of partially solved it by having bollards if necessary, but not having them installed for the most part.
I would like to think that we can say goodbye and go home.
I'll move to adjourn.
Well, I'm gonna need direction from the committee, Phil.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Well,
I say put the holes in as we're required to and have them available when we need them.
how about I concur with Joe on that. How about the other members of the committee?
I concur, Glenn.
I will abstain.
Others?
I concur.
Yep. Scott, I think I think you got your marching orders.
In other words,
All right.
pay for them, is that?
Yeah.
They were
What?
required to have hands.
Per permit, they need to be installed.
Yes.
On a
I know.
We understand. We understand. But at least at this point, until we come up with another solution, they're gonna be removable.
I would say that we should consider it long-term, but have them available until we come to a decision.
Yep. And we're not gonna decide today. So Scott, for the present at least, they should be tested, installed as a test, and then removed.
All right.
Okay?
Very good.
Anything further? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved. Your last time you make a motion, Teresa.
Yay. Sorry. I'm
Okay.
very
And do I have a second?
Glenn.
Glenn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Question, since Teresa is leaving, should I give her a ride home or make her walk?
Thank you all. You can stop recording the meeting, Georgia.